You know, there are certain boundaries in medicine that we've just sort of accepted as absolute.
Right.
Solid, immovable brick walls. If you break a bone, it knits back together. If you cut your skin, it scars over and heals. But the spinal cord...
That's always been the exception.
Yeah.
It's the one part of the body where the repair manual seems to be missing. For centuries, the prevailing dogma in neuroscience was that the central nervous system had zero capacity to regenerate.
Zero.
Once those connections are severed, the signal is gone. The wall goes up and it stays up.
At least that's what we thought.
Yeah.
But if you've been scrolling through social media lately, or if you've been following the news coming out of Brazil this January, you might have seen some headlines that feel... well, they feel like they belong in a sci-fi novel, not a medical journal.
It is definitely causing a stir. We're seeing terms like Nobel Prize for Brazil trending. And for once, the viral excitement isn't just hype. It's rooted in some very rigorous, very long-term science that's finally stepping into the spotlight.
So today is Tuesday, January 20, 2026.
Yeah.
And the reason we are doing this deep dive right now is because something massive just happened. The Brazilian health regulatory agency, Anvisa, has officially authorized clinical trials for a new substance that might just be able to rebuild that bridge in the spinal cord. And I don't mean a mechanical bypass, I mean actually repairing the biological wiring.
It's a pivotal moment. The substance is called polylaminin, and our mission for this deep dive is to really take this apart.
Right.
We need to separate the viral hope from the clinical reality. Is this a cure? How does the biochemistry actually work? And perhaps most controversially, why are judges in Espírito Santo ordering doctors to use it right now before the safety trials are even finished?
That legal part is wild, and we'll get there. We've got a stack of sources here, reports from earlier this month regarding the Anvisa authorization, interviews with the lead researcher, Dr. Tatiana Sampaio from UFRJ, and we're also going to look at some comparative data from the U.S. to see how this stacks up against things like electronic implants.
And I think the best place to start is with the biology itself, because polylaminin sounds like some synthetic chemical you'd use to varnish a floor, but it's actually derived from something incredibly fundamental to human life.
Right, let's get into the what and the how, because when I think of a spinal cord injury, I usually picture a cut wire. The brain is trying to send a signal, move my leg, but the wire is snapped, so the signal hits a dead end.
That's a decent starting analogy, but let's add some high-definition detail to it. The wire is the axon, the long thread of the neuron. When that snaps, two things happen. First, obviously, the signal stops.
Of course.
But secondly, and this is the part people forget, the environment around the injury becomes hostile.
Hostile how? Like an infection.
Like a war zone. The body rushes to protect itself, but in doing so, it forms a dense scar. It's practically a chemical and physical roadblock that screams, "Do not enter," to any neurons that might try to regrow.
A wall of scar tissue.
Exactly. So you have a cut wire, and you have this wall blocking any repair.
So standard medicine up until now has been doing what? Just trying to keep the remaining cells from dying.
Precisely. It's called neuroprotection, trying to stop the bleeding, so to speak.
Yeah.
But this new approach, polylaminin, shifts the paradigm from protection to regeneration.
Okay.
And it starts with a protein called laminin. Here's the fascinating part. Laminin is found in high concentrations in the human placenta.
The placenta, so the very thing that supports life before we're born.
Exactly. I mean, think about what a placenta is. It's an environment designed for rapid growth, for building connections from scratch. Dr. Tatiana Sampaio and her team at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, UFRJ, have been studying this for 27 years.
27 years.
They knew laminin was a key factor in how the nervous system builds itself in the womb.
So if laminin is the magic ingredient and it's in everyone's placenta, why hasn't this been bottled 50 years ago? Why did it take 27 years to get here?
That's the catch. And this is the aha moment regarding the chemistry. In nature, laminin is fluid. It's slippery. If you inject raw laminin into a spinal lesion, the body just flushes it out in hours. It doesn't stick around long enough to tell the neurons what to do.
It's like trying to build a bridge out of soup.
That's a vivid image, but yes. The breakthrough at UFRJ wasn't just discovering the protein, it was engineering it. They figured out how to polymerize it.
Polymerize. That means linking the molecules together.
Right. They chemically linked the laminin proteins to make them massive, roughly 100 times larger than the natural version. This transforms the substance. It goes from being a fluid to being a stable polymer. It creates a physical scaffold.
So they didn't just find the brick, they learned how to build the wall.
Or better yet, a trellis. When they inject this polylaminin into the injury, it doesn't wash away. It forms a track across the gap. It changes the environment from do not enter to safe passage.
It physically guides the axons across the scar tissue.
Yes, reconnecting the brain to the body.
That is a massive distinction. It's not just a chemical signal, it's a structural repair.
Ideally, yes. And we're talking about restoring both movement and sensitivity because you're not bypassing the injury, you're healing it.
Okay, that's the theory, and it sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
But as you always remind us, biology is messy.
It is.
Things that work in a petri dish rarely work in a complex living organism. Does it actually work in animals?
It does. The animal trials were extensive and crucial. In rats, they saw a complete recovery of movement. But the dog study is the one that really turned heads in the medical community.
Okay.
They treated 6 dogs with severe, naturally occurring spinal injuries.
And these weren't lab dogs where they induced the injury?
No, these were clinical cases, dogs that had been hit by cars or had accidents. Out of 6 dogs treated, 4 recovered the ability to walk.
4 out of 6. Well, in this field where the recovery rate is usually 0, that's a huge number.
Statistically, it's very significant. But of course, humans are not dogs, and this is where the story gets really gripping. Before this current official phase 1 trial that just got authorized, there was a pilot study done between 2018 and 2021. They treated 8 human patients.
And this is where we have to talk about Bruno Drummond, right?
Yeah.
Because his story is the one that's everywhere.
Yes, Bruno is the star case, if you will. He was involved in a car accident in 2018. The diagnosis was grim. Quadriplegia. He was paralyzed from the neck down.
Total loss of movement.
Total. He was told he would never walk again.
And then he received the polylaminin treatment.
He did, and the results were dramatic. He regained full movement. He walks today. He has his life back.
From quadriplegic to walking. I can see why the internet is screaming, Nobel Prize. That feels like a miracle.
It is incredible, and here's the but we have to include as responsible observers, he was the best case scenario. The data shows that results varied among those 8 patients. Not everyone had a 100% recovery like Bruno. Some had partial recovery, some had less.
Which brings us back to the clinical reality part of our mission. If it worked for Bruno, why isn't it in every hospital right now? Why are we still testing?
Because in science, anecdotes, even miraculous ones, aren't data. Bruno's recovery proves it can work, but we need to know who it works for, what the exact dosage should be, and most importantly, is it safe for everyone?
Right.
That's why Anvisa is so strict. We can't base national health policy on one outcome.
Fair enough. But I want to put this in perspective before we get to the legal drama.
Yeah.
We've seen headlines about people walking again before. I remember reading about the University of Louisville in the U.S. having some big breakthroughs a few years back. How is this actually different? Aren't they both just fixing the spine?
This is a critical distinction, and understanding it helps you see why the Brazilian approach is potentially revolutionary. The U.S. study, which was published around 2018, used epidural stimulation.
Oh, okay.
Basically, they implanted an electronic device into the spine.
Like a pacemaker for the spinal cord.
Exactly. Think of it like a classic car that won't start. The U.S. approach is like attacking jumper cables. You are using an external battery to shock the system into running.
It sends electrical pulses to the spinal cord below the injury, shouting at the neurons, "Wake up, move."
And it worked, right?
It did work. People walked.
4 paraplegic patients received these implants. 2 walked independently, and 2 took steps. It was a triumph of engineering. But the moment you take the jumper cables off,
The car dies. It's dependent on the hardware.
right, it's a bypass. It forces the spinal cord to remember how to walk by zapping it. The Brazilian method, polylaminin, is biological. It's not jumper cables, it's rebuilding the engine block.
It's rebuilding the actual wiring.
So the signal can flow naturally again.
That's the aha moment for me. One is a technological patch, the other is a biological restoration.
Precisely. If polylaminin works, you don't need a battery pack, you just have your body back.
Okay, let's fast forward to right now, January 2026. We understand the science, we see the potential. What is happening on the ground? You mentioned Anvisa gave the green light on January 5th.
Yes. This is officially phase 1, and listeners need to understand what phase 1 means. It is not about proving it cures paralysis yet. It is strictly about safety.
So they aren't even checking if they can walk.
They will monitor it, of course, but the primary goal is to make sure the body doesn't reject the protein or create dangerous antibodies. They are recruiting 5 volunteers. The criteria are very strict. Ages 18 to 72, thoracic lesions, and this is key. The injury must be acute.
Acute.
Less than 72 hours old.
Less than 72 hours. That is a tiny window. You basically have to get injured, get to the hospital, and get enrolled in the trial immediately. Why the rush?
This goes back to that hostile environment we talked about. When the spinal cord is hit, some cells die immediately from the impact, but a massive amount of damage happens in the days after the injury. It's called secondary injury.
So the initial crash isn't the only thing that hurts you?
No. Inflammation floods the area. It kills off neurons that actually survived the initial impact. It's like a secondary wave of destruction.
Why?
If you can get polylaminin in there within that 72-hour window, it seems to have a neuroprotective effect. It stops that secondary wave.
So it saves the neurons that are still hanging on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And provides the track for new growth.
It's a race against time. But, and here's where it gets really complicated, not everyone is willing to wait for a trial slot. I was reading these reports from Espirito Santo, and my jaw dropped. People are getting the drug via court order.
This is where the real world crashes into scientific protocol. In Espirito Santo, specifically in Vitoria, we have a situation where patients or their families are suing the state to get access to polylaminin immediately.
There was a 70-year-old man, right?
Yes, he fell from a roof. A complete lesion, a tragically common accident. His family, knowing about the UFRJ research, went to a judge. The judge ordered the state to provide the medication.
Oh, we got it.
He received it at the Hospital Estadual de Emergencia.
And he's not the only one.
No. There's mention of a young man named Vinicius Brito França and another, Luis Fernando Moser, who is actually already in rehab. This creates a fascinating, albeit incredibly tense, dynamic.
I can imagine.
You have the scientists saying, wait, we need to ensure this is safe in phase 1. And you have families saying, we don't have time.
Okay, but play devil's advocate with me for a second. If I'm that guy who fell off the roof, or if it's my kid, and I know there's a vial in a fridge at UFRJ that might make me walk, and the alternative is a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I don't care about your phase 1 protocol. I'm calling a lawyer.
And that is the heartbreaking reality. The judge is looking at the individual, save this man. The scientist is looking at the population. Don't release a drug until we know it won't cause cancer or autoimmune collapse 5 years down the line.
Both are ethically right, in a way.
They are. It's an impossible situation. But in Espirito Santo, the gavel is landing on the side of try it now.
And why there? Why Espirito Santo?
It is worth noting they were likely chosen for these judicial applications because they have a very organized health network that can actually monitor these complex cases. It's not happening in a back alley. It's in state hospitals just.
Legally mandated rather than scientifically scheduled.
Precisely.
I want to circle back to that 72-hour rule one more time, because I know there are people listening to this who might have been injured a year ago or 10 years ago. If the drug relies on stopping that secondary wave of inflammation, does that mean it's useless for chronic cases?
This is the hardest question, and Dr. Sampaio addresses this in her interviews with a lot of honesty.
Sure.
For chronic cases, injuries that are years old, the problem isn't just the cut wire anymore. It's the scar tissue.
The wall we talked about.
Exactly. Over years, that scar tissue hardens. It becomes like concrete. Even if you put the polylaminin track in there, the neurons can't punch through the concrete wall.
So is it a definitive no?
It's not a definitive no, but it's much, much harder. Dr. Sampaio says there is hope. The drug might still help grow axons if they can clear the path. Future research is looking at a combo therapy.
Okay.
Using enzymes to dissolve the scar tissue, melt the concrete essentially, and then applying polylaminin to build the bridge.
A 1-2 punch. Dissolve the wall, build a road.
Exactly, but that is further down the timeline. Right now, the focus is on acute cases because that's where the biology is most receptive.
So managing expectations is crucial here. We shouldn't be popping champagne just yet.
Absolutely, and that applies to the Nobel Prize hype too. Look, if this works in phase 3, which is the final efficacy trial, it changes history.
It really would.
It overturns the idea that spinal lesions are irreversible. That is absolutely Nobel territory. But we are in phase 1. We have a long road of data collection ahead of us.
And the Minister of Health, Alexandre Padilla, was pretty clear about availability, right? He's not promising this will be in the public health system, the SUS, tomorrow.
He was very clear. There is no date for this to hit the SUS until phase 3 is cleared. They are celebrating the innovation, and we should celebrate it because developing this over 27 years in a public university is a massive achievement for Brazilian science, but they are not promising a rollout yet.
It's a victory for persistence. It's 100% Brazilian technology, UFRJ and the pharmaceutical company Cristália. It really shows that we aren't just consumers of medical technology, we can be creators of it.
That's a great point. And it shifts the conversation from managing paralysis, giving people better wheelchairs and pain meds, to actually treating paralysis.
It really makes you think. If we can successfully encourage the body to rebuild its own main power line, the spinal cord, using proteins from the very beginning of life, what else is out there?
That's the provocative question. We tend to think of diseases as enemies to be fought with harsh chemicals. But maybe for some of these permanent conditions, we're just missing a building block.
Yeah.
Maybe the instructions are already there in our biology, in the placenta, in our DNA, and we just need to reintroduce the right protein to remind the body what to do.
We might just be a missing protein away from a cure. That is a thought worth holding on to.
It certainly is.
We'll be keeping a very close eye on the trials in São Paulo and the developing situation in Espírito Santo. This feels like a story that is just beginning. Thanks for helping us unpack it.
Always a pleasure.
Stay curious, everyone. We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.